Hey guys, it's Tarot and Beyond. My name is Siobhan, and today's reading is looking at Ascension updates for you, specifically from the dragons and the unicorns. These were the two frequencies that Spirit's been drawing me to lately, and this reading topic came up in two different other readings that I did. The first one was on my alternate channel, the Divine Channel Collective Readings, in the Unicorn in the Desert video. And then the second reference came up channeled to me in a members reading that I did yesterday for the Soul Family members in the live stream. And I was shown that we're going to be using these particular dragon cards that we have here. And I also felt the energy of unicorns, so I combined them. So as you can see, we've got the three groups to choose from as usual. Group number one is the unicorn card from the Cosmic Creatures deck and the Mystery Dragon, which we'll be looking at in the reading. Group number two is the unicorn from the Wild Unknown deck and the Mystery Dragon, which will be revealed in the reading. And the third group is the messages from your animal spirit guides, unicorn, and the Mystery Dragon, which will be revealed in the reading. If you feel drawn to more than one of these cards or readings, there could just be multiple Ascension messages or Ascension updates or energies that Spirit wants to draw your attention to. So follow your intuition and trust your instincts in regard to selecting a particular group. The timestamps are linked in the description box below, and the chapter notes can also be used to jump ahead to your chosen reading or readings. And we'll see you there. All right, hi group number one, welcome to your reading. You guys chose the Cosmic Creatures unicorn, and let's see what your dragon is. You have the orange gold dragon from Arcturus, opens you to knowledge for the new golden age, carrying the energy of the future and being a guiding light. Okay, so actually the first message that I got before turning on the camera for you guys was an energy of telepathic cleansing. So there's something that's going on right now regarding your sixth and possibly seventh chakras in regard to the collective ascension and your own personal ascension as well. So those two are kind of like crossing or overlapping. And I see that you've been targeting something. You've been like trying to focus in on something or aim for something specific. Or this is the guidance that Spirit wants you to be aware of, because it's through that awareness that you can really hone your skills of perception. And I also just heard the word deception. So there's something about a descent in consciousness or a deception that you've been dealing with in the realm of the third eye, the sixth chakra, the seventh chakra, crown chakra. So your clairvoyance and clairaudience may have been tampered with, but I'm also hearing tapped into, and it doesn't sound or feel to me as though this energy of being tapped into is a good thing. It feels like this was like energy that was being tampered with and being skewed in some way. And the Arcturians specifically are helping you to clear that. And I'm hearing high level channel. So some of you are receiving a high level channeled frequency. High meaning high frequency from these Arcturian beings, galactic beings in general, but definitely Arcturus is being highlighted here. And it's coming through in the form of downloads to help you clear out some of the distortion or the deception that was going on, and projection I just heard as well. So it was causing projections out of the third eye into the illusory world, is what Spirit just said, out into that 3D matrix, and distorting your perception of what is true and what is real. And it feels very real when you interact with the world outside, and there's a taint of fear across the image that you see or the physical circumstances that you manifest, and it feels very tangible and very real. But what they're showing me is that this is part of the descension that was intentionally implanted into the third eye to distort your perception of reality. So basically, in other terms, this would look like you seeing the worst of the world, basically. Whether or not you believe that to be true, but being witness to it and seeing and observing all of these distortions in the outside world. Like, why are people so erratic, or why are people so irrational, or why are people so ego driven, or why are people so money hungry and all of these distortions or fears around and projections around the third dimensional reality. Specifically, they're honing me in on like money and finances and greed and power dynamics and power structures and government and things like that, like ruling powers and hierarchies. And the distortion there isn't in what you're perceiving, it's in the lens through which you were seeing it. And they're elevating you, is what Spirit's showing me. They're elevating you to a higher frequency, ascending rather than descending. And being able to ascend to this frequency through this channel that is giving you access to downloads of information that are above the third dimensional planes, like very far above them, and being able to access that inner truth, that love, that guiding light that is within you that actually perceives the truth and can show you where there have been distortions on that lens of projection within the mind or within the 3D consciousness or within the imprints that you hold on some soul level. So what this is doing is helping you to cleanse and purify your mind and your thoughts, and that's creating a more stable future for you and for the planet, I also just heard. So it's not just for you, right? Because we're connected, all of us collectively, whatever we do individually does have a ripple effect out into the collective. And there have been they're showing me something about populations and like this split energy of things being pulled apart and having to kind of dissect or look at the details of the in-between, this polarity versus this polarity, this low frequency versus this high frequency, and being asked or tasked with looking at what's in the middle there, or where is the line between them and where you've been fluctuating below that line. Right. Okay. Thank you, Spirit. So there's a cleansing and a purification happening. I'm seeing an opening of the third eye, an opening of the crown. Again, they're restating the fact that this is where all the downloads are coming in. They're showing me an example of like tingling on the top of the head, the halo effect. There's an energy here of inpouring resonance is actually the phrase that I heard, inpouring resonance and increase to access of information from those higher domains, higher telepathic realms. So be open to that. Definitely now meditation is advised. Grounding yourself and meditating and connecting to that higher truth through nature is actually what they're recommending. They're showing me forests right now. So being able to go out into nature and connect with the peace that lives there, or that brings to you energetically, vibrationally, physically, because that's going to open you up to these higher downloads. I almost wanted to say timelines there as well. So I feel like maybe something about that split is energetically also referring to timelines, because where you place your consciousness and where you are at in terms of how you see and connect to reality and the vibration you hold really does dictate what timeline you are on. And you can be on a different timeline than the person standing next to you, because you're energetically perceiving different realities and therefore contributing to and creating different realities. Now, there's a lot more to it than that. That's really, really simplified version. But essentially what they're showing me is this elevation of this. It's kind of like an expanded state of consciousness that you're going to be able to access. And they're saying something about recently. I just heard the word recently. They're giving me the impression that you've done something recently that shifted you, or that maybe snapped you into this new reality, where they're showing me a rubber band effect. Like maybe you were stretching yourself too far and then you realized it had to snap back in some way, or this could be a call to be flexible with that rubber band imagery they're showing me. But it feels more to me like this was something that you were called to do, like practically do. It is kind of what it feels like to me. Something that you did. Yeah, they're not showing me what, but they're just telling me that you did something and it shifted. It shifted that internal frequency, or that they're actually saying the word resonance. It shifted your resonance. And so therefore what you are aligned to in terms of resonance is also going to shift. And that's why you're gaining awareness or access to these higher frequencies telepathically and these downloads. So they just keep saying, be open to that, be open to that. And they keep literally showing me the crown chakra opening. So opening to these downloads, opening to the transmissions, opening to the galactic call, or the, okay, hold on. They just interrupted me and said something about doing bidding, like don't do the bidding of the 3D personality, don't do the bidding of the mind. Surrender to the access and flow from your higher dimensional self. And they're saying the word perception. So there's something of a perception shift that's really shaking the foundations of your personality, your identity, your ego, yourself at the specifically at the third dimensional level. They're saying something about heart crown coherence, and that's funny because earlier this morning they were channeling that to me. I wrote that in my journal, and they were showing me a heart with a crown around it, and that's traditionally more of like, I think, a Celtic or an Irish symbol, but they showed it to me in this context of the crown chakra and the heart chakra merging and being in coherence. So it's getting into this frequency of the heart and being able to stay there and anchor that in through these higher connections that you have to the higher self, to the oversoul, to group consciousness as well of these. I'm hearing something about intellectuals. Okay. But I was going to say to do with these intergalactic beings or groups of beings. They're wanting me to talk about intellectuals. They're showing me Einstein. They're showing me somebody with glasses on with a book in front of them. They're showing me like math equations. So there's something about learning perhaps, or about education or getting more education, or this is going to be, oh, right, these downloads are like education, spiritual education and advancement, because that's how we advance our consciousness, is by learning, by being open to learning as well. Learning and shifting perspective is what Spirit just said. Yeah, they're talking a lot here about shifting of perspectives. There's something, they just said something about letting your guard down. Something about, they said wand of truth and wand of majesty. Something about the guard down though. Like it feels like there's been maybe some emotional or mental, no, it feels more emotional blocks to this energy or these downloads coming in. They're showing me a white frequency of energy, white light. And it's in the crown chakra. So the crown can be violet colored, but they're showing it to me here as this white energy or white light. And something about that was blocked in some way, or there was a block connected to that. I'm not sure. They're saying intellectualism again. So maybe it was, but it feels more emotional. So I'm kind of puzzled by this because the energy that I'm feeling clairsentiently is emotional, but they're saying clairaudiently the intellectual, the word intellectual. So maybe this is to do with an over intellectualization of emotions, and that creating a block to these telepathic downloads and access to higher connections and communications. But they're saying specifically higher awareness of self. So it's not even so much about who or what you're connecting to out there, because there is nothing out there. There is nothing outside of you. Everything is within you, and everything outside of you that you perceive as separate is an aspect or fractal of the self. And so they're showing me like this awareness, the awareness that I've just described, in that being this perspective or this perception of self that is shifting, integrating more parts of yourself into yourself is what they just said. Now they're bringing me to the unicorn. The unicorn is helping you. It's a guide, they said, and they're showing me it also as a protector. So the guide and the protector, and it's bringing you to the destination. And this is not, again, it's not a destination outside of you. It's a frequency that's within you that is and always was accessible, but that for some reason there was resistance to, or a block around accessing fully, or even at all. And this unicorn doesn't, oh, that's interesting. I just heard the unicorn does not deem you unworthy. The unicorn doesn't deem you unworthy, whatever that means. maybe on some level you feel like you're not intellectual enough to access this information. And the Arcturians, in my experience working with them, I do have a video on my old channel, To Kitty and Beyond. It's part of the Starseed Origin series, and I have an episode on Arcturians, and I've connected many, many, many times with them. And they are very cerebral in their way of thinking and commuting and communicating. It's very scientific and mathematical, and yet highly, highly spiritual. The Arcturians are a culture. They are a species. They are an energy, a collective that is very balanced in their masculine and feminine energies, in the sense that they have integrated the duality between the heart and the mind. They have integrated the duality between science and spirituality, and they've created that unity in the middle ground there. So I feel like this is also something that you're doing, or that you're called to do through this advancement or through this education, or this could be something that you are educating other people on, depending on the level that you're at currently and or the trajectory into the future of where you're going. This could be something that you're called to do, or that you're guided to expand your knowledge in a particular subject, either scientifically or spiritually, or ideally in this case, right? Because they're talking about both. I'm hearing astrology as an example. It's like a language, it's like a science, but it's also spiritually based. So it's kind of both, or quantum physics, another example. So yeah, it feels to me like there's a great shift in your ability to see things in a way that was blocked before and was being actively distorted for the purpose of getting you to see things in a negative way, in a negative light. Pessimism is the word I'm hearing, and distorting your view of humanity and what humanity is capable of, and therefore what you are capable of as a member of the collective of humanity. So being able to see yourself differently here and understand yourself differently is leading to this shift in your reality and your perception of everyone else as well, because it's all just a mirror, it's just a reflection. So I'm seeing you get that clarity and that download upon download upon download of this information. They're showing me Odin now hanging from Yggdrasil, which was where he strung himself up to and gave his eye to access the knowledge or the wisdom of the runes. So there's something here about access to information that is beyond the third dimensional realm, that is beyond what you can see, touch, and feel. It is real nonetheless, but it is something more divine. It is something more intangibly true. And being able to access that is going to give you, they're showing me a projection using that word differently. I'm getting a pitch change in my right ear, which is a frequency shift, and that's a download in and of itself coming in. It's not something that I get clairvoyantly or clairaudiently or anything like that. It's like a frequency download. It's very pure. So what was I saying just before that, though? Because that's always relevant to that pitch change or to that frequency shift. And the right ear, in my experience, has to do with higher intelligence and higher information, telepathic downloads coming in. And then the left ear is when we start to integrate it and we start to apply it, and it starts to reflect in our reality. Right, that's what it was. They were showing me the word projection, and they were showing me a projection out of the third eye, out of the forehead. But in this case, it was in a positive context. So the word being flipped on its head from that negative connotation to a positive one, where, and again, this reflects the polarity shift as well, and the frequency shift, where you're able to perceive and project into the future this with the loving light, with this guiding force, with this intelligence, this higher intelligence that gives you insight into what you can do or what you should do that is in alignment with your higher self, rather than doing the bidding of the ego or of the society and the projections from the other direction, like the negative projections from the people outside of you, mirroring back this distortion that was hidden in they keep saying intellectual realms of the 3D mind. So it was like a layer of the ego personality or a layer of imprinting into that ego, or something about implanting in the ego. So this is, it feels to me like a huge shift in your ability to perceive and therefore to create something higher for yourself and shape those new timelines. And they're saying collectively again. So this is something that you're doing, but it's also something that's happening collectively, and vice versa. It's you're doing it, and then it's collective, and then it's you. So it's both at the same time in both directions. It feels, okay, they're saying something about a council of light, or seeking counsel from this guide, from this higher dimensional energy or frequencies, seeking counsel, inner counsel I'm hearing, and they're showing me like a ring of energy or ring of souls inside the chest, inside the heart. It's like it's in the heart center of your auric field, and it's your inner council. So they're showing me seven beings in that inner council. This may even reflect on the 7 energy centers of our main spiritual body. There's many more, but there's the number 7 does seem significant here, because they made that very clear. And they're standing in a circle, all facing inward. And now they're showing it to me in like an infinity loop of the you looking inward to that circle, and the circle looking inward on itself, and going inward, infinitely. Yeah, and it's like falling down an infinite well, but at the same time expanding. So there's like an internal contraction and an expansion that comes from this looking inward and addressing this council within the self. This could even be a galactic council. Now, another imagery that they were showing me this morning was about ascension and descension, and how when we ascend, there's always going to be a mirror opposite effect. And so in the 3rd dimensional realm anyway. And so there's this kind of like pushing apart, which was, that's what they were showing me before as well. But in this infinite realm, it goes all the way around and rejoins over here. So as one part of the self ascends, one part of the self descends, and has been doing that, is what I just heard, and has been doing that. And then it meets on the other side and maybe just kind of bounces back and forth like that. This almost feels to me like, they're saying something about circular and momentum, something about the ages or cycles within the ages of time. But they're also showing me like, or it's reminding me anyway, of this like arc of energy going back and forth on both sides. You know, like AC and DC current or something like that, or the way that electricity or electromagnetics are alternating in their current or their frequency. So there's a heavy emphasis here for you, group number 1, on duality and polarity, integration, inner access, expansion of the psychic sight or psychic abilities, claircognizance, clairvoyance, possibly clairsentience as well. Well, all the clairs, right? But the 7 senses, they said the 7 senses. Oh yeah, the number 7 again being so significant. The 7 senses. What would those be? Anyway, the clairs, I'm assuming, but yeah. They're saying something about hanging it up and a coat rack or a hat rack, something about a hat rack, a cap. Hats go on the head, which is the crown, and the third eye, they cover that whole area. So hanging it up, maybe taking off that cap that was on the third eye and the crown and hanging it up. Oh, right. And hanging was also the reference to Odin. He hung himself in the tree to gain access to the wisdom. It was a necessary sacrifice of parts of his ego to access and gain that level of wisdom. So there's something about maybe an identity that you'd assumed for a while that you're hanging up, and it's opening you to this next level of information. And that was very abrupt. Spirit just said, that's it. That's all they have. That's what they wanted to share with you, group number 1. So very abrupt sort of termination of the download there. But it feels like it's very concise and precise, and they're going to share with you just the exact right amount of information that you need at any given time, and they're going to guide you through this path. So definitely just be open to whatever form this takes for you or what this may look like, and give yourself time to access that. Again, they're recommending, or they're bringing me back to the reference of the recommendation they said earlier in regard to meditation. So definitely practicing that's going to help with this. All right, guys, that's the message that Spirit wanted to bring through for you in terms of this Ascension update. If you feel called to any of the other groups, feel free to check those out. And if not, then we'll see you in the next reading. Bye. All right, hi group number 2. Welcome to your reading. You chose the unicorn from the Wild Unknown deck. And you also have the dark blue galactic dragon. Helps you listen to the voice of the universe, ignite the codes of your master blueprint, access cosmic wisdom, and enter higher service. Okay, now when I held up this unicorn, I kind of paused for a second there because I was hearing Spirit say something about ominous. They said the word ominous. And it does, this unicorn, even though it's beautiful, it does, for some reason right now, I've never gotten it this way before from this energy, or from this card, but it's feeling a bit ominous in some way. So maybe there's something about this access to listening to the voice of the universe, or accessing this master blueprint within yourself and these ascension codes I'm hearing to enter into higher service in some way feels ominous, but I'm wondering why. And they're showing me the dark blue and the darkness here in the background of the unicorn. It feels like something maybe about the void space, like fearing going into that void space, or something about accessing the darkness along with the light, like doing some level of shadow work perhaps, and that feeling ominous to you, or looking at the pain body and having to deal with or heal repressed emotions. There's something here about like it feels ominous or overwhelming or all consuming and too big and too dark to be able to deal with. But you have like these powerful resources here at your disposal. Yeah, even the word disposal is making me think of purification, healing the garbage, or going into these dark spaces in the corners of the self and finding, I did just hear the word entities. Okay, maybe finding entities or dark entities that are in there that need to be kicked out, that need to be removed, that need to be transmuted, or whatever the case may be. So there's something here about that feeling of ominousness, not being a deterrent, but definitely being an indication of kind of where there have been things that were hidden in the back places of the soul or of the mind or of the subconscious. I'm hearing in the astral. So there's something in the astral that's kind of been tagging along, and it's ready now for you to see it, or you're ready now to see it. But it's still, that doesn't change the fact that it's probably got some level of fear or this feeling of ominousness attached to it. Now I'm seeing the scene. Oh, this is interesting. I'm seeing the scene from Harry Potter where I think, it's the third book, where he leaves his house late at night. He storms out and he's on the side of the road, not sure where he's going to go. And he sees the black dog. You know, we know, spoiler alert, we know from later in the book and the movies, etc., that it's actually Sirius in his animagus form. I almost wanted to call it animorph form, animorphs. And that came up in a previous reading on my other channel, the Divine Channel Collective Readings. So that's interesting because that was talking a lot about war and shape-shifting and the pain of moving between these different realms. But anyway, point being is that he shines his light to see the dog better, and then the night bus pulls up, because that's the signal. Unbeknownst to him, he didn't know that was the signal, but it was. So there's something here that feels ominous, but isn't necessarily the way that you think it is. Like he misinterpreted, and everyone else misinterpreted in the wizarding world, that the black dog represented an omen of death, but it didn't. It was actually his godfather. So in watching out for him or wanting to be there, and in that act of curiosity or even fear of wanting to shine the light on something that's in the darkness and that is unknown and feels scary or ominous, he called for help unintentionally, but it came. So there's something here about this darkness and the awakening that almost feels haphazard to me, like unintentional or unbeknownst to you. This is happening, and it may feel a little bit like it's out of your control, and that may also add to the ominous or the fear, the ominous feeling or the fear that's evoked from this process. But it's kind of like a necessary evil, you know, and maybe this is even looking at the energy of evil itself as an entity, as an egregore, as I'm hearing the word casualties, as maybe even as like a plot device or as an archetype itself, as a polarity or in the duality of it. So there's something about understanding that darkness and the depth of that darkness that is helping you to actually see the light or find the light, and without your knowing, getting some kind of transport or protection that shows up for you. Some kind of I'm hearing something about a fairy blessing. That's so random, but something about a fairy blessing. And fairies themselves in literature or even in mythology, in folklore, are perceived as either being very dark and trickstery type of energy, and very like nefarious, evil, like stealing babies and replacing them with changelings, things like that. Again, shape-shifting changeling type energy here feels ominous, but if you just explore it and you look at it, you're going to see what this is trying to teach you or what this is trying to show to you, so you can evolve, because this is the point. It's all about ascension. And in other areas, in other folklore, and especially in more modern times in Western culture, fairies are seen in a much more positive light. And there are both, right? There are both. And that's the nature of all multidimensional realities, is that there are both. So there's like a depth exploration here, going into the deep, dark parts of the mind, of the subconscious. And they're showing me like diving down deep into the bottom layers of the ocean, like really all the way down into the Marianas Trench, like the deepest, darkest parts, and finding how far down it goes. Because in that, even if it feels scary in that depth, in that darkness, in that void space, in that pressure, there's, I'm hearing pressure cooker, and I'm hearing a signal going off, or like a beeper timer going off, like the pressure cooker is done or it's activated or something. And it's like, it's maybe you're going into the pressure cooker, but it's for a period of rapid or accelerated advanced evolution of your soul. And it's in facing these darknesses within the self or within the collective unconscious that you're able to access deeper and more truthful layers of the self. So in finding, and I'm hearing recovering, they just said recovering soul fragments lost in the darkness. Something about different beings, they just said too, different beings. They're saying the word entities again. And that again, even the word itself can have negative or positive connotations. Like, we're all entities. We are all physical entities, right? And there's energetic entities and there's all sorts. But then in the spiritual community, the New Age community, the word entity has also been used or become synonymous with this like dark entity or parasitic entities or, just demonic entities, like that kind of thing. So there's something here for you to look at and explore the darkness side of the duality or the polarity here. And not to fall prey to it or to become that. It's just to understand it and the layer of the self that has on some level repressed it. I just heard the fear codes you, but so does the love. So does the love. So I get the sense here, group number 2, that you're being tasked. I'm hearing something about a task force. They're showing me, what? That's so random. They're showing me a scene from the Santa Claus, like the original Santa Claus movie with Tim Allen. And it's ELF, elf. And it's like flying elves and they have jetpacks. That's so weird. I don't know why they're showing me that or how this is connected, but that is like a task force. So I guess I can see the connection with that, with what they said right before it. So, okay. Task force, ELF. And what did that stand for in the movie? Elf Liberation Force or something like that? So there's something about this that's very liberating for you in understanding otherworldly beings or what's out there in the universe in terms of other entities, both good and bad, and these parts of the self within the collective unconscious. I'm hearing something about Carl Jung. They said the quote, if you don't, I'm probably gonna butcher it, but I'm paraphrasing here. If you don't make the unconscious conscious, it will manifest in your life and you'll call it fate. So there's something here about these codes or frequencies of fear that have been manifesting, and you're meant to go in there and find them and understand them so that they don't have control over you, so that you can understand and integrate them in a way that like disables them or neutralizes them. Or maybe this is where you've felt disabled or trapped in some way, because the scene they showed me of ELF, of elves, was I feel like that stands for something else though. I'm not from the movie, like ELF. Does that stand for something else? Let me know. But in that scene, it's when they're going to rescue Santa Claus or the kids or whoever out of jail. They're going to rescue, and they use the tinsel as like cutting the metal to remove the bars. So there's something that was trapped or hidden in that darkness. Maybe it's something in the 12th house themes of like being imprisoned or trapped, or karma, or subconscious things, repressed things, pain, the darkness in the self. Yeah, there's something, or past lives even. So there's something here around that darkness that is pivotal right now for you, group number 2, in the process of your ascension and your understanding of self in the integration of these dualities. So the universe is both, right? It's dark and light. It's yin and yang. It's good and bad. It's up and down. It's all of these different things. And in you understanding that is you accessing the master blueprint, because the master blueprint is not one or the other, it's both. And it's with this that you access or gain cosmic wisdom. Now they're drawing me back to higher service, the phrase higher service here, and listening to higher service, or heeding this call of higher service. And in some way, I feel like doing this shadow work, or doing this big, deep, dark plunge into the icy, cold waters of this Mariana's Trench in the soul is going to produce either the catalyst for your higher service, if you're not already in alignment with that, or it's going to be a part of that higher service in and of itself. I mean, it is, right? It is, because it's doing this collective work on an individual level. And I was talking about that in group number 1 in a different sort of context, but I feel like here for you guys in group 2 that were drawn here, this is it's a pretty, major and massive process. I'm hearing something about self-deluge, and I almost wanted to say delusion, but they corrected me. They said, no, self-deluge. And I'm not sure what deluge actually means. I would have to look that up. So if editing Siobhan decides to look it up, it'll be up on the screen here. If not, you can Google it for yourselves if it feels like it's calling you to that meaning. But there's something about okay, hold on. They just said something about infographics. What is an infographic? Is it like information in picture form? I'm assuming, just based on the word itself. But maybe there's a context I'm not aware of. Something about infographics. Okay, they're showing me, and they said learning pathways, and they're showing me like multiple or alternate routes, learning pathways. They're saying the word egregore again. So an egregore is like a collective consciousness. It's kind of like an independent entity that's been created from collective consciousness. It's like a tulpa, or in the soul realignment modality, we used to call them, or we call them, hold on, I'm hearing the name Lisa Renee. She's the founder of Ascension Glossary. Okay, maybe something about looking that word up on Ascension Glossary or something like that. But I was going to say in soul realignment, we called them independent negative thought forms. Well, there can also be positive ones. Right. Santa Claus is an example of an independent positive thought form. It is an entity that exists in and of itself because we've created it. We all believe in it. And so it does exist in the astral. Santa Claus is like a real thing. Elves are a real thing because we've created them to be so. But because of the nature of the creation being in positive, in service to others, in higher service, like Santa Claus is, bringing gifts and things like that, but again, they're showing me polarity, like the naughty and nice, like something about this exploration of these dualities, of these polarities, good and bad. Hero and villain. Yeah. So there's like an exploration of these types of archetypes or these types of egregores. Okay. Wow. I just heard Ascension News, and they're showing me a newspaper with a UFO picture right on the front, and they're saying the word infographics again. Infographics. So something about maybe it's about like subliminal programming through information displayed in pictures, or you're getting information, news that's coming from this universal source, connected to this higher service that's related to in a galactic origin or something. I'm seeing a teepee, like triangle shaped tent, right? I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe something to do with indigenous roots. They're showing me a shaman with like a big feather headdress on and feathers like hanging down to his shoulders. He's got black hair, dark brown skin, and intense eyes. Like he's in this state of, I'm hearing witch doctor, like he's in this state of trance, like deep trance, and he's got these like shaking bones or something. Feels like indigenous forms of magic or shamanism, or entering this magical realm and looking at these different aspects of magic and how it's been portrayed as either evil or bad, like voodoo or hoodoo. I mean, again, you can use those for good too, I'm assuming. So the intent, or like the archetypes or the types of people that would do that. Something about exploring the energy of serial killers, like Jesus Christ. It feels like understanding the deepest, darkest depths of the universe, like the collective of humanity is only a small fragment or portion of that. There's something about this that's very universal here. And they want you to understand the polarity between positive and negative beings, and how that manifests, or how that shows up within the shadow self, or how that was split within the shadow self, and how to reaccess these parts of you to become whole again in some greater way. And this is all part of the higher service. Oof, wow, okay. So no wonder it feels ominous. Like, yeah, it's tough to look at those things unless you have a morbid fascination with them, which in that case, it's just an indication of where there is room for exploration there internally, right? Obviously not looking at that stuff in a physical sense, maybe necessarily, but really understanding it from more of a soul perspective, or an intellectual, no, not so much intellectual, it's more of a soul perspective, like understanding this from a frequency level, or from what motivates that, like what drives these actions. It's fear, it's rage, it's separation energy, it's desperation for entities that are parasitic. It's basically like looking at the difference between service to others versus service to self, and exploring those themes and understanding the duality between that, and what each side of the polarity really means, or what it represents even, or how it shows up in you. So there's a lot going on here, group number 2. Yeah, I don't blame you if you feel a little overwhelmed by this, or if this whole process has been unfolding and you're like, ugh, more of this. Like, really, do I have to keep digging in the dirt? They're showing me somebody with a shovel, like a spade, and they're digging into the dirt and getting muddy and dirty as they're digging down there. But it's in this process of discovery. They're saying the word deluge again. It's in this process of discovery that there's something of like a wellspring that emerges from this, because they're showing me digging all the way down and then striking oil, or striking this like fountain of water that erupts out, like something about the fountain of youth I just heard too. And having that access to, they said spiritual evolution material. Spiritual evolution material. And it feels like, is this information, like material as in like having textbooks, like the right materials to be able to learn something? Or is this talking about the material realm? The third dimensional space, the second density, something about density, the second density. I was trying to say dimension, and it really does not want to come out as that. They're like, no, that's wrong. It's not a second dimension. It's a second density issue. Second density, whatever that means. They're showing me layers of the inner earth now. I'm seeing fossilized skeletons of dinosaurs. Raptors, I'm hearing raptors. In the earth. Buried in the earth. And it's like digging down to find these things so you can study them, so you can find the material that's going to help you to understand the material. Does that make sense? Okay, well, yeah. Something's going to come full circle. They just drew my attention to the circle here. So something is going to come full circle, or you're going to see something. This also reminds me of the 0 point energy, or again, the void space. I'm hearing something about a black point. What is a black point? They're saying something about a neutral zone. I'm seeing, something about neutralized or neutralizing energy in the black point. They're saying something about constants, not constants like a name or constancy, but like constant energy, or this frequency that it's constant in some way. Something about a consonant as well, and continent. My mind is jumping, like leapfrogging from one to the other, and it feels like it's all connected, or it brings you full circle on something, or it's all it's all connected. There's something about this equation, or this this quest into the self, this deep dive that helps to expose something that propels you into understanding, and you're able to kinetic something, I don't know, you're able to connect the dots. Crinoline? No. It sounded like kinetic, and I think the only word that I know that's connected to that, or at all sounds like that, is actually kinetic. Something about the cranial nerve. These are all C words too. So something about the letter C is, I'm noticing a theme here, the letter C. Oh, they said draw it. And in my mind, I went like this, and I realized it's not a full circle. There's a gap. The C. If you turn it upright, it's the north node. If you turn it the other way, it's the south node. South node is past lives, lessons learned, areas where we might get stuck or stagnant. The north node is what we're destined for. It's what we're here to learn. It's what we're here to grow into. It's the path of our destiny that we're meant to fulfill. And then there's something about omega as well, because I was seeing that C start to look like an omega, which is the final letter in the alphabet, the Greek alphabet. Alpha and omega. So there's something of a revelation of codes that you are accessing through this dark plunge, or through this deep dive into these darker parts of the subconscious, or collective unconscious, or universal energies. It's there for you to explore. And there's something about at will, like your will being a part of how you direct yourself through that process. But there is a constant state that is calling you forth here. Something that your independent and individual free will is attached to in some way. And they're showing me like the higher self having this higher will and pulling the human self that is resisting because it feels scary or ominous along. It's like they're corded together, the higher self and the human self, the ego personality, and the ego personality is getting kind of dragged. But it's like it's time to go, and this constant motion towards this higher service has to happen, and it has to happen now. So that's why I heard the darkness is calling. Yeah, that's why the darkness is calling, is because it's through this work that the activation of the higher purpose, the higher service, the higher self's intention upon incarnation is unlocked or activated here. I just heard tapped in and tuned in, which I know is like an Abraham Hicks term, and I don't listen to Abraham Hicks all that much. I'm aware of that. And that's an example of an entity. Yeah. Abraham is the entity channeled by Esther Hicks. So there's something about being tapped in and tuned in and being able to possibly channel this higher aspect of yourself that feels almost like a universal entity. Or to look at all of these other forms of entities and see the reflection of yourself in them, like see them as fractals of the self and understand that. That's part of the shadow integration. I'm hearing something about archetypes and archetype-driven narratives or archetype-driven something. I'm losing the channel on that last word. It's kind of... Now they're just saying deluge again. So I don't know, but there's something here about archetypes or an archetype-driven narrative. Yeah, they're saying hero and savior again, hero-savior complexes, or maybe the archetypes and hero-savior makes me think of Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. Like descent into the underworld is part of that hero's journey into developing this wisdom, into this higher service and the application of it. So it does feel like this is kind of the point that your soul has reached. It's a point of no return. There's something on the horizon here that you've come to the edge of, and you're meant to leap off into this void space and go through this portal into the unknown, which gives you access to all of this. They keep saying deluge of deluge of information. Deluge of information. I don't even know if that works as a sentence, but that's what they said. Something about a deluge of information. And now I'm hearing something about snapping back to reality. Yeah, make sure that you stay grounded if you're going to do this, right? Like you want to do it the right way. If you go into the shadow and you're unprepared and you're ungrounded and you're not stable in yourself, it's really easy to drown in those waters. You know, the mystic swims in the same waters that the mental issues drowns in, or like the regular person drowns in. So there's something about being stable in the process of doing this, or doing it in bits and pieces, like not doing it all at once, because you don't want to destabilize and fall into psychosis or delusion. Like you really do want to stay nice and grounded while exploring these themes, these energies, these topics, these entities, right? So don't lose yourself in that void space. Make sure that you are anchored in your higher truth. And I don't think that that's going to be an issue for any of you here, but I do have to provide that as a disclaimer or a warning, especially based on my own experience working with this type of energy. But the way that they're showing me okay, didn't mean to say that, but I'm not going to edit it. Your higher self, again, maybe it's like exploring demonized sexuality, taboos, because I accidentally said horror. So, okay. But I meant to say cord, the way that the attachment or the connection, I want to say connection, but they're saying attachment between higher self and ego. So maybe that's even something to explore, like the negative connotation of attachment to the higher self, or to the ego's attachment to that idea, even in itself. But the way they're showing it to me is that there's this cord, and you're not going to get lost. Like the ego won't fall into despair or lose itself in this process of finding the truth in the darkness, is what it feels like. Yeah, now they're showing me somebody going into the labyrinth and having a cord around their waist. So it's like you're always able to find your way back out again. So just make sure that you have that cord around your waist, which is essentially your connection to source. It's your connection to the higher self, to the unity consciousness, to your physical being as well. Make sure that you have a healthy connection with your body and you can ground back into it. That's really key here in this process, and maybe somehow directly or indirectly connected to this higher service that you're here to embody. Yeah. Okay, group number 2, I think that's the message. So I will leave it there. That's the Ascension update that Spirit wanted you to have awareness of at this time. I just felt called to say, if you have any questions, let me know, which I don't normally say in the outro of readings, but maybe you have questions, or maybe you're meant to be asking questions right now because it's in the seeking that you shall find, right? So maybe being just curious or looking at where there are gaps in the knowledge that can help you to evolve through this stage of development, or this phase, I want to feel, because it's a phase that kind of comes and goes, but yeah, stay grounded in it. All right. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next reading. Bye. All right. Hi, group number 3. Welcome to your reading. Last but certainly not least, you guys chose the unicorn from the, they want me to get the book out for you guys. I did get this out, which I haven't touched this book in years, other than to like rearrange the baskets where I have all the guidebooks in. But there's something about this guidebook they want me to read, even though this has a description on it. So you chose the unicorn from this deck, and it says, indulge your creative, imaginative, and magical side through some form of artistic expression. And then you also have the silver lunar dragon. It says, bathes you in divine feminine light. Oh, yes, creativity and imagination, magic, feminine, definitely. And come into balance and practice peace, harmony, and cooperation. Expand your causal chakra. They're really emphasizing that they want me to look in here for this card. So let me just go ahead and find that. I saw the word shamanism on one of the pages as I was skipping through here. Okay, we have the unicorn. Whatever the artistic vehicle through which you express your most creative self, whether it's drawing, poetry, painting, music, acting, or any other form of creative expression, make it a priority in your life by devoting some time, energy, and perhaps even money toward this artistic pursuit. I'm noticing the number 123 on the bottom. It's catching my eye. Feels like progress or taking small steps towards this act of creation. Let the longing of your heart determine what the form of your imaginative expression is, but let it be one that elicits passion and purpose. Allow it to evolve as needed without acceding to any internal perfectionism about the end product. The process itself is where the magic is. Let that alone be your satisfaction and delight, and you'll be pleased with the results. Whether this avocation continues as a hobby or turns into something you receive compensation for, never do it solely for the money. There's no need to act out the starving artist scenario, but when you make monetary rewards your primary goal, you risk stifling the creative pulse that emanates from the core of who you are, potentially compromising the integrity of your artistic gift to the world. And I'm hearing artistic vision. Should you ever be uncertain about following your passion with this kind of expression, take some time to observe children. Notice how innocently and imaginatively they play in their world, particularly when unhindered by social restrictions and artificial boundaries. This is a reflection of the magical child who's inside you, begging to explore and be expressed. So have fun. Keywords here or associations are magic, mysticism, virtue, honesty, purity, chastity, inspiration, protection, restoration, manifestation, power, gentleness, humility, healing, unity, and virginity. Yeah, all these connections to the unicorn. That childlike play is really standing out to me, and in the other two groups, the unicorns had very different messages. And I do associate unicorn energy with this childlike magic, innocence, and mysticism. So it's interesting to me that out of the three groups, yours is the only one where that energy specifically is being raised or being looked at. I'm seeing the raising of a flag right now. Something about the raising of a flag. Maybe it's flying your flags, flying your colors, making yourself known, being visible in some way with what you're creating, or letting this signal go out to others that you are open and receptive to receiving these creative insights, maybe even to the unicorn energy or the dragon energy itself, that you're open to these insights of creative flow. I'm getting like mythical, fantasy, fairy tale type energy from this group as well. The dragon and the unicorn are really standing out to me. And again, in group 1 and 2, I barely even talked about the archetypes of unicorn and dragon. It was more so just like these like direct information channels from spirit, but yours, they really want me to focus on these themes and how they apply to the energy that you're stepping into or that you're meant to step into. But I feel like you're stepping into it. Again, 1, 2, 3 is steps. It's steps that you've taken, that you are taking, that you're initiating. You are the initiating factor. I'm seeing the Ace of Wands in my mind's eye, and that is the start of a creative project or the inspiration for one. So you get the download of inspiration. You've raised the flag. Something's coming in to barter or exchange with you, is what I'm hearing. And they're showing me like British ships on the ocean, and they would fly their flags, and then other British ships would know, and then they'd come and like dock with them or like sit beside them and extend the plank so they could exchange and barter. So there's something about bartering, and they did mention money, like not doing it for the money solely, but making sure that you're not entering into that starving artist energy. And oh my God, I can so relate to that message right now, group number 3. If you haven't seen the very vulnerable video that I created on my other channel, the Divine channel, I will have shared it here by the time this reading comes out. I've been in that energy, and I'm trying to break that karmic cycle right now, like as we speak. And I've been taking steps to do that as guided by spirit. So there's something here about vulnerability and being able to access the core frequency of this artistic vision that you have and that you hold. Like you are the holder of this sacred vision, and you're the one who's been chosen to create it. And it's through you that this creation is intended to be made manifest. So it does need to have some kind of compensation, either through you investing in it, like spending the money to be able to create it, if that's what's required, learning the skills or requiring the materials or something, right? Or asking for the appropriate compensation for the amount of time and energy and resources that you did put into it. So there's something here about this fair exchange, or this bartering, or this energy of getting what you're worth and honoring that integrity of this artistic vision at the same time. I just looked down at the cards because I channel looking up into the corner of my room. I don't know, that's just how I scry. And I'm seeing the word cooperation really standing out. Sorry, it's so far away. Cooperation. Balance through cooperation. So there's something about you and other people here. Maybe you're working with other people and other artists or other groups or other... I heard energy workers. Okay, for some of you, this is about energy work. It's not like a specific type of art. It's maybe like the art of mysticism itself, because it is an art. I can tell you that for sure. This is my art right here. And it's not the traditional form of art, but it's art nonetheless. So there's something about you creating in cooperation with other people. And I think that this is part of the exchange, right? That's what brings the balance. It's that you're giving and you're taking. I don't even want to say you're giving and receiving, because receiving is that feminine energy, which is being highlighted here in both of your cards. So you got a double message here about that feminine creativity and feminine receptivity and worthiness and valuation or evaluation. But it feels more like valuation of the self, the priceless gifts that you have or that you give or that you are creating here with this vision. Something about channeled art as well, like light encoded art or light language, something about energy work. They keep drawing my attention to the magic of the unicorn here. So there's something about this ability to receive energy, like pure source energy, and then turn that into something, like whether it's a physical thing or physical in the sense that you can touch it and feel it, or it's something that you perceive, or it's something that you can see or hear or smell or taste. There's something about this sensory experience of what you're creating here. even if it's just the sensory experience that you have when you're creating it, and honoring and respecting the value in that too. Because it's worth acknowledging, is what Spirit just said. It's worth acknowledging. Yeah, they are talking about worthiness wounds. And like I said, this is what I'm going through right now as well. So, but they're bringing it up in your reading, which is a general, more collective reading. And it's a frequency shift. They're saying a frequency shift away from this old paradigm of slavery, or I'm hearing something about self-deprecation, like not deprecating yourself for your artistic abilities, or not hiding your art, or not shying away or shaming yourself for being an artist, or struggling in any way to meet your needs in terms of the value exchange there. But they keep showing me the flying of the flag again. So it feels like knowing your colors and being able to display them is somehow important to this value exchange and to these resources. Like they're showing me those two ships again, and it's like one has something that the other needs and vice versa. So they're able to exchange and both get their needs met. And that's why it's a beautiful, balanced relationship. It's reciprocal and it's symbiotic in the sense that both are getting what they need out of this exchange. So, and I'm hearing it's not conditional. So there's something about removing conditions from yourself or from others, or from how you valued yourself or your art, removing conditions on how the process needs to look or how the outcome needs to look. They did mention that in the guidebook. Yeah. So something about process versus outcome. I think that for the most part, artists are process people. Like in soul realignment, which is a modality that I used to practice, there's a manifestation blueprint course that I took, and it was like an extension of the main soul blueprint reading in Akashic style of readings. And in that course, there is a frequency of process versus outcome people. And I'm a process person, and every artist I've ever met or creator in any way has been a process person as well. And the business people tend to be more outcome focused. And at least that's my observation working with lots of people over the years. And so being a process person means that the energy that you at the soul level, at the blueprint level, manifest out of what you are doing is based on the process of how it feels while you're doing it. So if it feels really bad while you're doing it, the outcome is going to match that energy. You can't just like push through and make it to the end because that is going to be what you want it to be, because it's not, because the process needs to be enjoyable. And it doesn't mean that there's not going to be like tricky bits to it or things that you need to overcome or challenges or frustrations or struggles. It just means that you are not intended to be constantly in that energy of self effacement or deprivation or deprecation or feeling completely drained by what you're doing. That's not the process that you want to be energetically in to create that outcome, because it's going to match that. So if you're having fun, if you're enjoying it, even if it's like a cathartic thing artistically, even if it's, yes, maybe challenging or painful in the moment, but it's healing, then that's what you're going to create. And that's the value you're going to get out of it, is the healing or the joy or the fun, right? So it's looking at the actual experience of it. And I remember when I first learned that years ago, I started asking myself every day, and I have gotten out of the practice. I think this is Spirit's way of reminding me that I should get back into the practice and sharing it with you if you feel called to do this practice as well. Checking in with yourself every day, especially when you're creating, and asking, does this process feel good? And if the answer is no, what can I change or adapt, or what solutions can I find to make it more process oriented, to make it funner or more enjoyable in some way, more fun in some way to do. So like if you're trying to, for example, if you're trying to paint a painting and your arms are getting sore, well, maybe it's about moving the painting into a different, like from being upright to laying on the ground or something. Or if it's uncomfortable because you need a different shaped brush or something. It can be about adapting in those small ways. So small steps lead to big change, big progress, big movement here in regard to this creative vision and the expression of it into the world. So definitely checking in with yourself yourself every day, not just when you're creating, but just in general, if you're a process person, because this applies to everything, not just what you create. It's literally everything you create. It's your daily life. It's your reality. So asking yourself, does this feel good to me? And surrendering to that process. Not really, you can have an idea of the outcome in mind, but don't get hung up on it, basically, and just allow that process to unfold, because that's where the magic happens. That's where the beauty is created. That's where the vision really takes form. And as I'm saying that, I'm getting passionate, and you can probably hear it in my voice. That's where that passion is translated. That's where it gets across, where it can be heard, where it can be seen, where it can be felt tangibly, palpably by other people, or just by you. You don't always have to share your art with other people. Sometimes it's just for you, and it's a sacred process of healing and connection with yourself, with that inner you, your own artist archetype. And sometimes it is for other people. Sometimes it is something that's meant to help to heal other people, or to awaken other people, or to enlighten other people, or to get them to think or see things in a different way. Because art can take so many forms, and it can translate information in ways that sometimes simple communication or textbooks or dry information just simply can't do. And there's value in that. There's great, great value in that. And I'm hearing, don't discount that. And they're showing me a discount tag, like 10% off. Don't discount that, because it's priceless. So you really shouldn't put a discount tag on something that's priceless. And I'm hearing something about, but how do you evaluate yourself? How do you evaluate yourself on your, what are you talking about, Spirit? Like on your skills, or on their skills, on how to charge or make a fair exchange or energy. Something about outpouring. I'm hearing outpouring, an outpouring of love, or an outpouring of support or appreciation. They're showing me an art gallery. I get this. I don't think this is literal. I think it's all metaphor, but they're showing me an art gallery and putting a whole line of work on display, and having that be seen and adored. And there's always going to be critics, right? There's always going to be critics that are like, oh, that brush stroke was so childish or something, but it doesn't matter, because what really matters is the positive impact that it has. And if somebody walks into that art gallery and looks at that painting, and it evokes that childlike wonder within them that they haven't felt in a long time, or that they really needed that day, then it's worth it. Then it's worth it. And that's how I feel about my readings. It's like, yeah, there's going to be haters. There always is. There's going to be people who don't agree, who don't understand, and that's fine. And yeah, sometimes that hurts, but I'm here to make a difference. And if I can touch one person positively, like anytime that I see a like on the video, I'm like, that's someone that I helped in some way, in some small way. This reading, this energy, the message resonated with them, and it produced a result, right? And I'm not focused on the result again, because we're talking about results, or outcome versus process, but it is what helps to motivate me to continue doing this process, because I do enjoy the process as well. And so it's a win-win when both are accounted for here. And you don't always see that, but there's something about this frequency shift that they keep drawing me back to here, that they want to talk about with you, Group 3. This frequency shift in the way that you are connecting to or creating your art, and maybe even who you're creating it for. Now they're showing me an owl going, whom. Well, usually owls say who, but they said whom. The wise owl, wise old owl. Something about drawing straws I'm also seeing, and they're showing me drawing an apple, drawing an owl, something about sketches. And sketchers. As soon as I said sketches, I saw sketchers, but then I doubted myself, and I was like, well, that's like just maybe my brain making an association. But no, that's not. That's part of this creative process, and Spirit knows that and uses my mind in that way to create this art, these readings. So, and Skechers made me think of, obviously there's shoes, it's a brand of shoes, and that's a population, usually, anyone can wear Skechers, right? But there's, to me, I associate it with like childhood, because I saw a lot of that as a kid. And it also relates to the message of 1, 2, 3 steps, right? Lacing up your shoes and getting moving, starting to make some kind of physical steps toward this vision, toward this goal, and knowing the intention behind each step that you're taking. Now, the thing with this is because you're process oriented, it may just be a feeling process that guides you through that rather than like a regimented schedule, right? Like that doesn't really work for process people, or maybe it does. Maybe you're more, I'm hearing something about Virgoan, like maybe you're more of like a Virgo type energy where you like to have some order or structure. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're more like me. I'm Pisces, which is the opposite of Virgo, and I like to flow and I like to not have a schedule. But I do need some semblance of order to be able to get my work done. So it's like you're finding ways to work with these opposing energies and get them to harmonize so that you can have this vision manifest into reality. They just said something about purple, the color purple, purple people. What? Purple people? I don't know what that was about. But something is, you're going to create something that is going to be held by a lot of people, I think. And purple people could be indigos. You could be an indigo. They could be indigos. You could be creating for indigos. I just got a flash of heat go down my back, on both sides of my back. Something about the meridians, I'm hearing, meridians. My spinal meridians just activated when I said indigos. And okay, so you're an indigo and you're creating for the indigos or for the larger population possibly too, but there's something about making your way as the way of an indigo. And indigo is also the color frequency of the third eye. And when I used to do soul realignment, Akashic blueprint readings for people, anytime that I would have a client come to me and their soul blueprint would show up as the gift of divine truth, which was the third eye chakra in that modality, they were artists, like 9 times out of 10. And creative art through vision, through seeing. For me, because I am one of those as well, I do it through my ability to see clairvoyantly, among other clairs, but the visual aspect of it is key. And the imagery, that's why I like using cards, because I don't need to use the cards in readings, but I like to because I like the imagery, I like the art, I like the impression that they have, I like the energy that each deck holds based on the artwork, based on the creator, based on the imagery and the text. Like it meshes really nicely together to relay the message. And I feel like this is you understanding your gift more directly and valuing that gift, because you may have, they're saying something about disproportionate, like you may have disproportionately undervalued yourself. They're saying undermined, something about undermining yourself or having undermined your gift or having your gift undermined by other people, because it's, it's kind of like, why are you getting a Bachelor of Arts degree when you should be doing sciences? Or why are you striving to get an art job when you should be working in a bank? Something about this idea of like these rigid structures and monetary systems versus creative expression and authentic, this vision that you have and you're here to I'm hearing display. And they keep saying holder, like you're the holder of this vision. And you're here to display that, again, raising the flag, displaying it. You're here to fly those colors and to be free in doing so, but not to give away for free unless you feel called to do so, unless that is a fair exchange in some way, because it's priceless. So yeah, group number 3, this is a really interesting message for you, and it's an Ascension update. So like, this is in regard to you creating something that is ascending you to the next level of your spiritual evolution. And the indigos are here to massively shift the population. There's 3 waves of indigos, and they each have kind of different roles that they play. But I feel a close kinship or connection with you in this group. And I feel like I am in this group, which doesn't always happen. Sometimes the readings are very abstract to me and I don't feel connected to them at all, but I bring through the messages nonetheless. And this one, I feel like I'm reading for myself. So, yeah, let's do it. Let's go team, let's find, I just heard funding. Oh, they said find funding. And on the weekend, I was seeing synchronicities about grants. Like I heard a reference to it in a show, and then I went to the river and I overheard somebody talking about getting a grant. So yeah, it's like something about receiving the money that you need, maybe from a financial institution, because I referenced banks or government or whatever, and being able to use that to fund what you're doing, or acquiring some kind of, maybe it's not physical money, maybe it's more of like intangible resources that you need to be able to complete a project, or the support, maybe it's mutual support and connection through groups or through partnership that is going to help you to achieve this. They keep saying, hold this vision to achieve this goal. But I think the achieving of this goal, again, it's not about the outcome. It's about the process. It's about holding the vision. Spirit literally just said, you are the vision holder. And they're showing me like visual cues in that third eye chakra, in your ability to see, to dream, to believe, to create from that space, like to see worlds that could exist, and to use that magic of the expression of your gift to create that, to manifest that, to tell a story, to sing a song, to paint a painting, to do a reading, to channel, to do magic in whatever way, shape, or form it takes through you. But it's you that holds the vision. And as the vision holder, you need to appropriately value yourself and your vessel and your expression. So I think that's it. I think that's really the message here, group number 3. And I'm going to leave it at that because I feel like I got to it, and I feel like I sort of covered all of the aspects there. So I hope that it was helpful. Again, as I said earlier, that's always my goal with these readings, with these messages, with this art, is to help. It is to heal. It is to activate. It is to enlighten. It is to settle, to bring peace, to bring joy, to bring inspiration, whatever it is that helps to activate you and enlighten you and expand you, then that's what I hope for. So I'm sending you so much love and appreciation, my fellow indigos, if this resonated with you. Thank you for being here and supporting my work. And I love you. And if you feel called, I just feel prompted to say, if you feel called to check out my other channel as well, here we do pick-a cards. On my other channel, I do more collective style readings and channeled information and things like that. And it's called the Divine Channel Collective Readings. It's linked in the description box below. I love you guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.